Maaseh, Acts, chapters 24 through 26. And after 5 days the Kohen Hagadol Hananiah came down with the elders and a certain speaker, Tertullus, and they brought charges against Shaul before the governor. And when he was called upon, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, having obtained great peace through you, and reforms being brought to this nation by your forethought, we accept it always and in all places, most excellent Felix, with all thanks. But in order not to hinder you any further, I beg you to hear us briefly in your gentleness. For having found this man a plague, who stirs up dissension among all the Yahudim throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also tried to profane the Mikdash, and whom we seized and wanted to judge him according to our law. But the commander Lucius came along, and with much violence took him out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come to you. And by examining him yourself, you shall be able to know all these of which we accuse him. And the Yahudim also agreed, maintaining that these were so. And when the governor had motioned him to speak, Shaul answered, knowing that for many years you have been a judge of this nation, I gladly defend myself, seeing you are able to know that it is not more than 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem to worship, and they neither found me in the Mikdash disputing with anyone, nor stirring up the crowd either in the congregations or in the city, nor are they able to prove the charges of which they now accuse me. In this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, so I worship the Elohim of my fathers, believing all that has been written in the Torah and in the Nevi'im, having an expectation in Elohim, which they themselves also wait for, that there is to be a resurrection of the dead, both of the righteous and the unrighteous. And in this I exercise myself to have a clear conscience toward Elohim and men always. And after many years I came to bring kind deeds to my nation and offerings, at which time certain Yahudim from Asiya found me cleansed in the Mikdash, neither with a crowd nor with disturbance, who ought to be present before you to bring charges if they have any against me. Or else let these themselves say if they found any wrongdoing in me while I stood before the council, other than for this one declaration which I cried out, standing among them. Concerning the resurrection of the dead, I am being judged by you today. And having heard this, having known more exactly about the way, Felix put them off, saying, when Lucius, the commander, comes down, I shall decide your case. And he ordered the captain to keep Shaul and to have ease, and not to forbid any of his friends to attend to him. And after some days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was a female Yahudi, he sent for Shaul and heard him concerning the belief in Mashiach. And as he reasoned about righteousness and self-control and the judgment to come, Felix became frightened and said, for the present go, and when I find time, I shall send for you. At the same time, too, he was anticipating that money would be given him by Shaul, that he might release him. Therefore he sent for him more often and conversed with him. But after 2 years had passed, Porcius Festus succeeded Felix, and wanting to do the Yahudim a favor, Felix left Shaul bound. Festus, therefore, having come to the province, 3 days later went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. And the Kohen Hagadol and the chief men of the Yahudim informed him against Shaul, and they begged him, asking a favor against him, that he would send him to Jerusalem, making a plot along the way to kill him. Then, indeed, Festus answered that Shaul should be kept at Caesarea, and that he himself was about to depart shortly. Therefore, he said, let those who have authority among you go down with me and accuse this man to see if there is any fault in him. And having spent more than 10 days among them, he went down to Caesarea, and on the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded Shaul to be brought. And when he had come, the Yahudim who had come down from Jerusalem stood about, bringing many and heavy charges against Shaul, which they were unable to prove, while Shaul said in his own defense, neither against the Torah of the Yahudim, nor against the Mikdash, nor against Caesar did I commit any sin. But Festus, wanting to do the Yahudim a favor, answering Shaul, said, Do you want to go up to Jerusalem and be judged before me there concerning these? And Shaul said, I am standing at Caesar's judgment seat, where I should be judged. To the Yahudim I have done no wrong, as you know well enough. For if indeed I do wrong or have committed whatever deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if there is naught in these of which these men accuse me, no one is able to give me up to them. I appeal to Caesar. Then Festus, having talked with the council, answered, You have appealed to Caesar? To Caesar you shall go. And certain days having passed, Sovereign Agrippas and Bernice came to Caesarea to greet Festus. And when they had spent many days there, Festus laid Shaul's case before the sovereign, saying, There is a man here whom Felix left as a prisoner, about whom the chief Kohanim and the elders of the Yahudim informed me when I was in Jerusalem, asking for a judgment against him. To them I answered, It is not the Roman practice to give up any man to destruction before the accused meets the accusers face to face, and has a chance to answer for himself concerning the charge against him. They therefore, having come together without any delay, I sat on the judgment seat the next day and commanded the man to be brought in. When the accusers stood up, they brought no charge against him such as I expected, but had some questions against him about their own worship and about a certain Yahushua who had died, whom Shaul was claiming to be alive. And being uncertain how to investigate these matters, I asked whether he wanted to go to Jerusalem and there be judged concerning these matters. But when Shaul appealed to be kept for the decision of Augustus, I ordered him to be kept until I sent him to Caesar. And Agrippa said to Festus, I was wanting also to hear the man myself. And he said, Tomorrow you shall hear him. Therefore, on the next day, Agrippas and Bernice, having come with great show, and having entered the place of hearing with the commanders and the eminent men of the city, Shaul was brought in at the order of Festus. And Festus said, Sovereign Agrippas and all the men present here with us, you see this one about whom all the community of the Yahudim pleaded with me both at Jerusalem and here, shouting that he ought not to be living any longer. But I, having found that he had committed naught deserving death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I decided to send him. I have none definite to write to my master concerning him. Therefore, I have brought him out before you, and most of all before you, Sovereign Agrippa, so that after the examination has taken place, I might have somewhat to write. For it seems to me unreasonable to send a prisoner and not to signify the charges against him. And Agrippa said to Shaul, You are allowed to speak for yourself. Then Shaul stretched out his hand and made his defense. I think myself Baruch, Sovereign Agrippas, because today I shall make my defense before you concerning all of which I am accused by the Yahudim, you being most of all an expert, knowing of all practices and questions which have to do with the Yahudim. So please hear me patiently. Truly, then, all the Yahudim know my way of life from youth, which I led from the beginning among my own nation at Jerusalem, since they have known me from the first, if they want to witness, that I lived as a Pharisee according to the strictest sect of our observance. And now I stand and am judged for the expectation of the promise made by Elohim to our fathers, to which our 12 tribes, earnestly serving Elohim night and day, expect to attain. Concerning this expectation, O Sovereign Agrippas, I am accused by the Yahudim. Why is it considered unbelievable among you if Elohim raises the dead? Therefore, indeed, I thought within myself that I ought to do much against the name of Yahushua of Nazareth, which also I did in Jerusalem, and I shut up many of the Kodashim in prison, having received authority from the chief Kohanim. And when they were put to death, I gave my vote against them. And punishing them often in all the congregations, I compelled them to blaspheme, and being exceedingly enraged against them, I persecuted them even to foreign cities. While thus engaged, as I was journeying to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief Kohanim at midday, O sovereign, I saw a light from the Shamayim, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those who journeyed with me. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me and saying in the Ivri language, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the prods. And I said, Who are you, Adonai? And he said, I am Yahusha whom you persecute. But rise up and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to appoint you a servant and a witness both of what you saw and of those which I shall reveal to you, delivering you from the people and the Gentiles to whom I now send you, to open their eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, and the authority of Satan to Elohim, in order for them to receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who are kadosh by belief in me. Therefore, Sovereign Agrippas, I was not disobedient to the vision of the Shamayim, but declared first to those in Damascus and in Jerusalem and in all the country of Yahudah and to the Gentiles that they should repent and turn to Elohim and do works worthy of repentance. That is why the Yahudim seized me in the Mikdash and tried to kill me. Therefore, having obtained help from Elohim, to this day I stand, witnessing both to small and great, saying nil else than what the Nevi'im and Moshe said would come, that Hamashiach would suffer, would be the first to rise from the dead. He would proclaim light to the people and to the Gentiles. And while saying this in his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Shaul, you are mad! Much learning is turning you to madness. But Shaul said, I am not mad, most excellent Festus, but I speak words of truth and sense. For the sovereign, before whom I also speak boldly, knows this, for I am persuaded that none of these are hidden from him, for this has not been done in a corner. Sovereign Agrippas, do you believe the Nevi'im? I know that you do believe. And Agrippa said to Shaul, With a little you might persuade me to become a Mashiachim. And Shaul said, Much or little, I pray to Elohim that not only you, but also all who hear me today might become such as I also am, except for these chains. And having said this, the sovereign stood up, as well as the governor and Bernice and those sitting with them, and having withdrawn, they spoke to each other, saying, This man is doing naught deserving death or chains. And Agrippa said to Festus, This man could have been released if he had not appealed to Caesar.